Welcome back to a new season of Why Are We Like This? The show that treats Florida like the active crime scene it is. I am David Quinones, and also we are the show that will sometimes unceremoniously take 4 or 5 months off to work on some shit. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Mind your business. I am your host, and if I am your host, that can only mean that I'm joined by my co-hosts, the first of which is the indomitable Tomas Kennedy. Hey, hello, Tomas. Welcome back.
Hello.
You're coming through clear. You look good.
So this has been a running bit for years now. Wherever I move, there's always bad internet. There's always tech issues. AT&T showed up to my house, said that I needed something called quote-unquote fiber. Anyway, so apparently my internet is 100 times
You need more
faster
fiber in your
before.
diet.
Yeah, I got more fiber in my tech diet. But as Gerald says, 100 plus 0 is inconsequential. I mean, my internet was dog shit, but apparently I'm
100 times 0.
It was 100, Tomas.
You're right. Forget about it. We'll edit that out.
You know what? Fucking it.
We'll edit that out.
So if I'm joined by Tomas, that can only mean that I am joined by our other co-host. He's been busy rolling up the Paul Feinbaum for Senate Exploratory Committee. It's Gerald Doherty. Hey, Gerald.
I'm so sorry about my bald boy getting all of our hopes up that Alabama was going to have a senator that can, I don't know.
Read the option.
Yeah, I don't know. yeah, read.
Or just
no,
read.
I'm sad.
I said read the option, but yeah, read.
Well, it's just like ever since that Tommy Tuberville guy ran, I was like, okay, so clearly they asked Nick Saban to do it, and he said no. So someone obviously approached Paul, but I feel bad that Paul, for those who don't know, Paul Feinbaum is a very, very turtle-like man who's very genteel, but also apparently very, very Republican and looks the part.
Take George Will, swap out baseball for football, and remove the hair, and you've got
He looks like he could have mentored the Romneys, both Mitt and George.
Yes,
and I'm sad to see that Alabama won't be represented by such a man.
Who would be your guys's for somebody to, because we've had to deal with like the whole Stephen A. Smith will he won't he discourse shit. Who from mainstream sports media would you guys actually put into politics if you could? I have a couple of people that I'd love to see Kyrie Irving run for something, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't watch sports.
Perfect. How about you, Joe?
I mean, this is a Miami podcast, so of course the answer is Lionel Messi, my favorite player in the whole wide world, should run for Miami politics, of course.
Yeah.
That'd be so boring. He's such a boring ass guy.
Yeah, but that's what we need. Every time we're writing out an episode, it's, did you know that the guy who's in charge of collecting the garbage was running a scheme for real estate and collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars on it? You guys need a boring guy at this point. You need someone who's just going to show up, do his job, and collect a check.
I mean,
I cannot imagine what would make him want to do any job in government.
I'm pretty sure that
I would ask
Messi has been
Francis Suarez would have a very good answer for that question. Why would I want a job in municipal government? Francis has the answer to that question.
I'm pretty sure Messi has been evading taxes in Spain and other jurisdictions for years.
Yeah, but you get to do that when you're a beloved. When you're the GOAT. When you're the GOAT, you can do that. We alluded to our current, at the moment, as we record on a Friday in early December, City of Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, long subject of this show. We're going to talk a little bit about the Miami mayoral race, which is going to come to its conclusion with a runoff about 3 or 4 days from now. We're going to talk about that, and then I also wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about and get your thoughts on a new battlefront in the war for America's soul with artificial intelligence and why it's right here in Florida, that battlefront. But first, I think we got a bunch of random shit that we just gotta touch on a little bit and just mention that we maybe missed or definitely missed over the course of the last 4 months that we've been in between seasons of Why Are We Like This? So I put together a list of lightning round topics, and I'm just going to spin the old wheel of fortune and see what pops up first. And I'm just going to throw them out there as we get started. And the first one would be everything that we've learned about these Venezuelan boat attacks. We were in a completely different reality than we were the last time we met, the last time we talked, when I think this had just begun, the Trump administration's effort to, quote unquote, intercede, but just like blow up basically with no due process these vessels in the in the South Caribbean, like Gulf area, that we haven't really seen any great evidence that any of them were, involved in trafficking narcotics. Since then, everybody, of course, has become like an expert on Venezuela's role in the international narcotics trade. And I don't know, I just wanted to throw it out there, like what has been your guys' take on this story? I know, Tomas, you were talking about it on Twitter recently.
I mean, it's fucking illegal murders. What else is there to say? I mean, it's really interesting because everybody sort of is anticipating some sort of like military intervention in Venezuela, right, for regime change, and that this is sort of like the preceding theater to an actual, again, like full-blown military intervention carried out by this naval strike group that's positioned in the Caribbean Sea. I'm actually unconvinced that is the case. I think it's a PSYOP pressure campaign to try to dislodge the government of Venezuela, but I actually think that Trump is such a boomer and has this sort of like antiquated war on drugs mentality that he thinks it's popular with the American public. I actually think this is the most expensive, ridiculous, and idiotic anti-narcotics operation in human history, carried out via an aircraft carrier. Like, I actually think, like, eventually he's gonna get bored. Those ships are gonna sail away to other parts of the world, and like Venezuela is gonna like remain status quo. And I would be willing to bet money.
He's essentially just collapsing the logic of the war on terror into the war on drugs from the Nixon era. For those who remember the Obama drone strike policy, it was basically, if we killed you with a drone, you were either a terrorist or you were close enough to a terrorist to be a terrorist. And so this whole thing of we'll blow up a boat and then declare you to be a narcotics dealer after the fact. That's a logic that's served U.S. foreign policy for at least the last 15 years, usually conducted in actual military operations. This is, as Tomas already mentioned, this is just trying to massage the Venezuelan government aside and try to install something that would be more friendly to Western financial interests.
Yeah, and to your point, Gerald, it sort of expands that extrajudicial justification in the war on terror drone strikes, where they basically said, this person's a terrorist, we deem them an enemy combatant, and they're fair game for murder, And they're basically saying, like, drug smugglers are enemy combatants, they're fair game in, theater of war operations, which is preposterous, without even getting into the fact that no evidence has been presented that any of these individuals are actual drug smugglers or drug runners, aside from the government saying, trust us, bro. And, there could be that some of them are drug smugglers, but, it could be that some of them or any of them aren't. We really don't know.
With the way they were carrying themselves in February and March, like putting all the pictures on the White House lawn of the people they had deported who had committed, let's say a violent crime. If that evidence existed, I think you would see it on the White House lawn right now. And the fact that it's not there tells me that they don't have it.
Yes.
That brings us to one of our next topics, which is catching up with Alligator Alcatraz, and which was sort of in full swing, and the outrage was also in full swing, which has kind of nationally at least quieted down over the intervening months. But I mean, things are still happening there. I mean, they're building. Tomas, I saw recently that there is some the Friends of the Everglades had pointed out that there is like new development and new like buildings being erected in the site. And I don't know, maybe you know more about that than I do. But it's just crazy because, again, like, we haven't recorded for a while and this is still something happening, but it feels like, I don't know, for a lot of people, it kind of has receded into the background. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah. So obviously the temporary injunction shutting down the site was appealed successfully at the 11th Circuit, which reopened the site. In terms of that environmental lawsuit, the judge still has to make her final ruling, and the government shut down delayed, the judicial process. But we know that there's people being transferred in there all the time. We don't know how many people are there. I mean, I know reporters from the New York Times, Reuters, Huffington Post, Univision that have tried to get an answer from the state as to the total population detained there, and the state refuses to disclose that number, which is pretty preposterous. I will say there was an Amnesty International report that came out yesterday that made global news because they brought in, like international law experts and medical experts that were able to officially call the use of certain punishments in alligator Alcatraz torture. For example, the use of the box, which for this has been reported before, but it's a 2x2 cage-like structure in the yard where people are chained to the ground and left out in the sun for hours, exposed to the sun and mosquitoes. And we actually, organization Flick, we helped uncover that through conversations with detainees and their family members. It was first reported by Tim Paget of WLRN. I mean, it sounds obvious to say that type of punishment would be torture, and it is. And we've been saying it for months now. But when Amnesty International comes out and says it, obviously it's it gets more relevance because of credentialism and whatever. But it's important.
We'll stay tuned on that. Obviously, we'll keep talking about that one a little bit closer to home. Well, actually, no. You know what? Let's do this one because we, part and parcel with that conversation is, probably the most the most high profile of like folks who are maybe not supposed to be in the country. The biggest story of like I would say like the last month or so was Afghan national who turns out had worked with the CIA and drove across the country from Washington State to Washington D.C. to kill 2 National Guards troops. And I the only reason I really wanted to talk about this one was just because like it kind of fits in with a lot of the weird shit that we talk about all the time, and like like the idea. I don't know if either of you followed these sort of Google sleuths that were looking at the Google Trends for this the assailant's name, and the fact that his name was being searched in Washington D.C. like days prior to the shooting happening. And I don't know. I think I follow along.
I don't know about that. Say more, fam.
Okay, so it was pretty like straightforward. Like it's headline is the story. The like if you can go on Google Trends and you can search when things were being searched on Google. Like it's a pretty open source tool that anybody can do. So there were several people on Twitter, TikTok, other platforms that were like screen recording and literally holding up their phone and recording their screen and being like, look, you can see this guy, his name is pretty unique. I forget his name off the top of my head, but it's a very unique, it's not a name that probably is not searched very much. And it was searched like 17 times, 6 days in Washington, D.C., 6 days before the event happened. And then if you go back further, and this was always in Washington, D.C., it was being searched a year earlier. And it's just kind of a weird thing. Like, I don't know. I try not to ascribe too much to that but then Google went and they deleted that. They deleted now there's no record of his name being searched at all when you try to pull it up on Google Trends. Which I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about these things. You guys we've long teased the revelations of my personal crazy conspiracy theory about the Las Vegas shooting, but like seriously, like I can't process too many more of these things and still care because they make them so like it's too crazy. I just feel like the best answer is that there is just a cadre of people who have done fucked up things and are in some quasi capacity connected to the intelligence services, and like they will just pop at any moment. And that's kind of like, you remember we were talking about like the whole, oh well, that's the price that you paid to have freedom or whatever. Well, it's the price that you pay to have empire, or the price that you pay to have a wide spanning intelligence service, is that there are people that are just going to lose their shit or be activated to lose their shit now and then, and it's going to happen a lot. I don't know. I know that sounds insane, but I just wanted to like throw it out there.
So what are you getting at? Say what you want to say, David. Say what you want to say.
I think you're behind it all, Tomas. I think it's you.
You think?
I think you're pulling my strings. No, do you guys want to hear my craziest conspiracy theory that I've had over the last few months that I haven't been able to talk to anybody about this, honestly. Okay. And it has nothing to do with any of the stuff that we ever talked about.
Safe space, David.
I have I have a unifying theory about why we actually, like we broadly as a people, as culture, society, hate or disdain nepo babies. Okay.
That sounds like a doctoral thesis.
Okay. It's not.
All right.
It's half baked as fuck.
Okay.
It ties into our evolutionary response that we shorthand and call the uncanny valley, right?
Yeah,
And
this is like the Rogan experience. Fucking.
yeah, no, this is some Rogan shit. This is Rogan shit.
Okay, we're
I
cooking.
believe
4 months back, baby. Like we're going deep. We're
Yeah.
drilling.
I believe that there was at one point early in the development of in the era of Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens, I believe that there was some sort of predator that preyed on us by mimicking something that like mimicking, trying to like weasel its way into the tribe around the campfire, trying to get around us. And I think that this is where whatever this is
alien.
like, I don't know, but it's like, it's where why every culture shares the myth that we broadly call skinwalkers, right? Like we all have, like every culture independently arrived at like this whole thing where it's like, oh, well, there are doppelgängers or whatever. They're called different things in different cultures, right? But I think that's from a long, long time ago, and it's some sort of evolutionary response. It's the reason that we see AI art and it doesn't quite look right, and it makes us feel uneasy and wrong. And
People love AI art now. It's all over my social media, bro.
They're losing their evolutionary edge. They're losing their hunter-gatherer skills.
The U.S. president is a nepo baby.
So this was going to be my question: is what does it's scary when like that dummy from Goosebumps starts killing people? What does that have to do with inherited wealth?
Okay, I'm going to get to that. I was watching Stranger Things.
Get to it now. Get to it now, please.
Matt Rogan coded.
And I was looking at this the young actress, the daughter of Uma Thurman, right? Uma Thurman.
Okay.
Tuma Thurman. How about that?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, somebody's trying. I felt that feeling. I felt that uneasy, like uncanny valley. I was like, this person is trying to trick me to like sit next to the fire, right? They want to come into the tribe. They want to come into like they're trying to use unearned like equity with the group to come in and be a part. And there is something evolutionary at our core that rejects that, where we're like, you're trying to be Uma Thurman, but I know you're not Uma Thurman. And that makes me think you might be a skinwalker, or you might be a predator or something that's trying to trick me and trying to kill me, you know?
What you're describing, this primal thing that you're getting at, is the desire for parents to want to have good things for their children. And if you are, let's say I'm Uma Thurman.
Desires, Gerald. Those are competing desires.
David, even if I'm Uma Thurman and I have a daughter, and there were some people who I knew whose lives I made better by being Uma Thurman, I might try to cast that in by saying, hey, my Uma Thurman, my daughter would like to have a certain something. Like, this is not, I feel like there's A to B and you could have gone in a straight line, but you decided to go into like outer space. It is extremely straightforward why people would want to do something nice for their kids.
You're examining this from the wrong side.
We're tearing apart like David's theory, like a thesis defense committee, David. But this is very also like applicable only to like the children of nepo babies. What about when the source of the actual wealth or talent, meaning the parent, is not known to the public? Then
I think that's
point for the skin crawler.
Yeah, and I think that is why the further that's like you're progressing my thesis. My thesis continues to evolve and grow, and my feeling is that the more anonymous that this. Hang on a second, my dog is invading my
Benito.
Is that this?
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Benito.
if you were to write
Let me see Benny.
Right at the door.
I know, guys. This is so unprofessional.
So cute. So cute. Bernie,
he's like 3 times the size from the last time you saw him.
Eating too. You want to give him to me?
Yes, I want to give him to you.
Yeah.
Because he's loud.
Look at this.
You see Bernie. Gerald's just going to grab somebody's dog off of the street.
Anyway, David, if you actually were to write this into Bernie, come here, into if you were to write this into like some half baked like 200 and something page book, it would absolutely sell,
Yeah.
and like people would take it seriously too.
Not Gerald though.
You would
He
make
not.
the rounds for sure, but you would have to sell it harder than this, is what I'm saying.
Well, it's very half baked, and I'm only sharing it because I thought I was in a safe space, but
Right.
You're in a safe space, but I'm gonna tell if you say something to me, I'm gonna tell you what I think of it. You're in a safe space. I still care about you. I'm not mad at you, but
I
come
think
on.
that the further
I
that
think
a
this could actually
celebrity,
make a lot of money. You would be invited into like Dave Smith's podcast or something.
I would have to invent like a whole cosmology of like bullshit, fucking Peter Beinart, fucking like shit. Okay. So let's get back to real news. Guys, I almost applied for a job posting that I saw. I saw that there was a recent posting here in South Florida for a crisis communications professional, which is right up my alley. I do that. By Representative Stacey Cherfilius. I don't know if I pronounced that name right or anything like that, but she, of course, is the congresswoman that is in like southern Broward County, who will, according to the redistricting maps that they're floating, her district would be like one of the 3 or 4 left of Democrats that would be left if they do redistricting. Stacey has long been sort of rumored to be involved in some untoward PPP loan shit and like, being unethically remunerated from that early COVID time, and I guess the Trump Justice Department is now coming down on her and I believe her husband for their alleged transgressions. And they were advertising for a crisis comms director, and I was like, oh, that would be kind of fun to do, but I would not do it because my friend, if you're a listener of my old podcast, I interviewed him a couple times. Elijah Manley is very loudly running against her in a very kind of tense, argumentative, cursing each other out in public kind of way. So, and Elijah's a nice guy. I don't want to I wouldn't want to do crisis comms against him, even though, like most young progressives, he stands zero chance of winning. But I don't know. I don't know if you guys caught this story or not.
There's a little bit more of a chance now.
Yeah, a little more of a chance.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so that was a funny thing, right? I don't know if it was in our chat or if it was in another chat where I was talking about this and somebody was like, "Yeah, but they're just gonna now the Democratic like whatever like establishment will drop in like like they won't think of Elijah as somebody serious. They'll drop in like a serious candidate or something like that, an establishment candidate." And that to me that's crazy, right? Because you can say like a guy like Elijah is like, I don't know, too lefty or too progressive or just like for a million different reasons not plugged into the centrist establishment, whatever. But he is like a product of that shit. He's like that guy is like he's like a, what do you call it? Like a model UN kid. He went to Boys State. He did all of the Dem shit growing up. He did all that stuff. It will never cease to amaze me what the criteria is to be one of us in that party, especially within Florida, but broadly, like in the Democratic Party, like what it is exactly, where it's like why wouldn't just throw your weight behind him? Like he's got equity in the community. Like why not have that guy? I don't know. I know that I realize how like naive that sounds to say, but like still,
you never know. They might. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I guess. I think like 20 motherfuckers are gonna jump in that race as soon as McCormick is like formally, I guess, found guilty or drops out. But we'll see.
The idea that like on the same day that they announced that, I was just like, oh, let me just see what let me just scroll like 5 or 6 scrolls on Twitter and see if I find like something bigger that is like more corrupt or whatever. And it took like 2 seconds to be like, oh, Donald Trump Jr. backed startup scores $600 million federal government deal. And it's like, are we really worried? Like, I mean, are we really worried about corruption? Like this, like this should be Ali Oxen free era. Everybody should be allowed to do corruption. Just fucking do it. Who cares? Like, it's ridiculous. It's like pulling this lady at like this obviously corrupt fucking person for like $5 or $6 million in PPP loans. Come on. yeah, so that's what I got on that. The other thing I wanted to talk about maybe was a friend of the show, Jason Garcia, was talking recently about how charter school operators are finally like ready to start moving in and taking over a bunch of hollowed out public schools and using what the DeSantis administration has been calling co-location to move out the old public schools that clearly weren't working and bring in these private schools. And this is from Jason's Twitter feed, where he has a thread saying charter school operators have signaled their plans to take rent-free space in at least 450 public schools across Florida using a new school privatization law that Ron DeSantis and the state's legislature enacted earlier this year at the behest of a billionaire megadonor. That's according to the Florida Policy Institute. They are expanding the program called Schools of Hope. I looked into these schools of hope personally. This is me talking, not Jason. I found of the 5, I found within like a matter of just a few seconds of Googling, enormous like auditing and financial improprieties and CEOs being fired and, fudged financial reports and like dozens of schools in Texas that had to be shut down. These are dog shit like charter school companies, and they're going to be taking over like 450 public schools that have been hollowed out by the rush to have more charter schools. So I don't know. I just wanted to mention that at the top. I don't know if either of you have any thoughts on that. That's more of a parent corner thing, maybe. I don't know.
I saw that the Florida's education commissioner was booed at a statewide school board conference happening in Tampa because he was defending the Schools of Hope shit. Which is basically, they have this like new law that allows them to commandeer space within public schools that are underperforming to install these grift charter schools. And he basically was like, you guys need to just get over it, because we're bringing accountability back to Florida schools. These people are scum. But, it's just part of just the inevitable and irreversible collapse of all institutions in the state of Florida and really across the country. But we are the preview of what the program is for the rest of the country. And there's not much we can do about it.
Some people tried to do something about the Trump Presidential Library here that's going to get like a slice of some of the most valuable land that Miami-Dade College owns downtown near the Wolfson campus. It got kind of ramrodded through a committee, and then folks like some local activists, I think led by Marvin Dunn, forced them to at least have a public conversation about it, and then they just rammed it through anyway. So in a few years, we'll have something. I'm sure it'll be a great library. I'm sure there'll be lots of wonderful texts, that Donald Trump has definitely read in the Donald Trump library.
Dude, he's cooked, man. We got to talk about that. We got to talk about Trump. Like, Bernie, he's starting to become like a little like Biden-esque.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad. I've been reading a lot of
like the brain's starting to seem mushy,
Yeah. What somebody compared like on a minute by minute basis. I forget who it was. I think it might have been that reporter Daniel Dale that compared like his, like his daily schedule, like his workload, his public workload to Biden at the time when Biden was completely like falling apart, right? And was like no longer there. And it's pretty comparable. Like nothing before 10 a.m., nothing after 4 p.m. Whenever and like as the seasons the days got shorter and the seasons waned on, his time, along with the sunset, his time of productivity would get shorter and shorter and shorter as we're heading into the winter months now. And I think he's fucking falling apart at the seams, man. I don't even know. They might just weekend at Bernie him for like a couple of years. Was Gerald saying something? No. Okay. Early polling for 2028 on the Republican side. Distant second and third place behind JD Vance are Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio. In the nowhere is the I laugh at this because it reminds me of shit that Democrats do, where it's like one of the worst areas where they're doing it where DeSantis and Rubio are doing relative to Vance is in California, where Vance has like this enormous lead. And it reminds me of when Democrats will like put huge stock in states like South Carolina and shit where they have like no. It's like, why do you care about that? Like, what's the point of that? Well, if you're a Republican, what the fuck do you care about who's popular in California? Like, why would you bother?
Yeah, which Democrat is polling well in South Dakota? That's the one I want to put my money on.
It makes sense. I mean, California occupies such an interesting space in like the conservative mindset. I mean, they're obsessed with it. And remember, I mean, up until up until like a couple of decades ago, California was ruby red. It was a Republican state through and through. Ronald Reagan came out of California. So, I get it. I get the fascination. I get the obsession, the sickness.
But I'd say his base, there's a base for him in California, but it's like a fundraising base and like an ideological base in San Francisco. But as far as polling is concerned, I don't think he's, I'm not saying anything I don't think any of us don't already know and agree with. JD Vance isn't winning California in the general.
It's the same thing as Florida, right? Where like it's ruby red now, but the Democrats are still kind of like, it occupies this space in the Democrat mind where like, well, how are we polling in Florida?
Right.
The situation there, and there is a localized fundraising base, for example, here in Miami, in Orlando, where like the presidential candidates don't do rallies anymore or events in Florida like they used to, but they come here for fundraisers. I mean, Kamala Harris is coming often to raise money. It's like bizarro states in relation to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think also similarly, is it not true also in California, and registered NPAs, I believe, outnumber registered Republicans in the state of California? And is that not also the case now in Florida, where registered NPAs are? Yeah. So yeah, it is literally just a mirror image of the state of Florida.
But with all the transplants from there, it's surprise. I guess it's not surprising that you see within the presumed Republican 2028 field that Republicans in California, like, they're not interested there's not a lot of energy behind like a DeSantis or a Rubio, because like if you're a Republican and you're in California, you had your chance the last 6-7 years to move to Florida if you liked what DeSantis was selling, like, and a lot of them did, and now they're here. So the ones that are still there, I guess, are like, no, I like being conservative, but not like that kind of conservative, whatever the fuck that means. Yeah, did you see what's his name? Daryl Issa is leaving California, and he's getting redistricted, and he's just gonna move, I think, to Texas. I think he's just gonna move to Texas and run for Congress.
The Valentina Gomez playbook.
And then Selena Gomez leaving Missouri and going to Texas. Yeah, and just being like, that to me, I feel like that's something new. Like that felt like, I don't know, like that's like a sea change. That's like NIL era sports, like, or football or some shit for college football. It's like, wait, you're allowed to do that? I didn't they have a word for that? Didn't we used to call people like that carpetbaggers or whatever?
I mean, it makes sense if the voters themselves are ideologically sorting themselves, and you could just chase the voters that way. I mean, people are literally voting with their feet and moving around to a place they would feel comfortable with. It makes sense that politicians would say, why would I stay on uncertain ground when the voters I'm counting on, like the people I used to count on for votes, have for sale signs in front of their houses? Like, I get the logic of it.
So let's jump to like the two kind of main topics that I wanted to talk with you guys about. Number one, because it's been a while since we checked in on the Miami mayoral race, which just is fucking interminable, man. I don't know. It's just fucking boring. Who cares? Like, at this point, it's been so long. Like, how long have we been talking about who's going to take over for this fucking guy? Next week is the city of Miami's mayoral runoff election. On Tuesday, facing off, we have the Lib transplant, Eileen Higgins, West Coast transplant recently of the Miami-Dade County Commission, who was first elected in 2018 on a promise to improve public transit, like the last time we talked about her, how'd that go? And who pulled the cringiest move ever, by the way, giving herself a nickname, the Kobe Bryant move, where she made up her own nickname, La Gringa, which is just like, how can, like, that's awful. Don't do things like that. Not very imaginative either. It was because she was like the one, like, kind of white candidate back in 2018 who could speak passable Spanish. So she will be taking,
so condescending also. And you know what's the saddest part? It worked.
Yeah. So she will be taking on the conservative MAGA Miami choice, Emilio Gonzalez. Gonzalez's resume is a sort of a veritable 21st century conservative chameleon, a guy who was George W. Bush's, I believe, director for USCIS for Homeland Security, and who also turned himself into this like Trump-styled, right-wing I wouldn't say firebrand. There's nothing firebrandy about Emilio Gonzalez. It's very like he's very milquetoasty kind of executive, boring guy. He was the somehow people give him credit for the airport just because as his time with the Miami airport director. It still sucked back then. It's just worse now. Like I don't know.
It is a lot worse now, though. Like
it is way worse now. Yes,
you gotta keep it real, bro. Sounds so bad.
I had to really struggle with my urge to do like the most annoying American coming back from Europe thing, and I was gonna text you guys, and I literally had a whole WhatsApp text typed out, and I deleted it because I could just picture you guys fucking savaging me. Like I was gonna say like, wow, coming from the Madrid airport into MIA, what an experience. And I like had pictures of like just the fucking like stained floors and everything. It's just coming in through that international gate is like Miami International Airport is already pretty bad, but coming through that gate is just like
no, I've been to Madrid. The Madrid airport is like incredible. I don't know, it was like I was
beautiful,
blown away. Like
yeah.
It's like being in like some spaceship 100 years. Like it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's like a steampunk type of like, you know, like old European, like old Italian. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous airport with like enormous high ceilings, but modern fixtures.
And then you land in this dog shit airport with like piss everywhere and escalators that don't work and just lines everywhere.
And fucking and customs agents just screaming at the top of their lungs, like, "Go here, you fuck! Are you a resident? Are you like what the fuck, man? It's just like an assault on your senses."
Awful.
It's like this is how people like come. This is how people come to this country. Yeah, wonderful. So yeah. Anyway, So any takes, any predictions? What do you guys see happening on Tuesday? I think Tomas had a pretty solidly formed opinion on what the outcome might be.
I mean, I think Eileen Higgins is gonna win. I don't give a fuck. I'm not invested.
Did any of her like door knockers? Because they've been taking a lot of photos out of the neighborhoods and stuff. Did any door knockers show up at your place?
Christian Ceballos came in the primary, and I literally like ran him off. I really like barked and I'm like, I'm not voting for any of you motherfuckers. Get out of my front yard. And he's like, okay, and left. I was like, nothing personal against him. I'm like, I don't want you like in my property. I'm not voting for any of you. Just get the fuck out. Like you guys are all grifters.
So we'll see. I was shocked when I attended one of their debates when the field was larger and there were 5 people that were debating with each other at the Knight Center a few months back, and it just felt like, and the debate was put on by Ken Griffin and Griffin Capital or Citadel Management and all this shit. And like, they talk all the time about like the Overton window and the acceptable discourse and like what you can actually say. And it felt so disconnected. Like what they were talking about felt like all of them were up there. These people who have either been in the city government or the county government or were currently, because like Emilio Gonzalez, also former city manager, most recently, right? And like all of these people, the dad of the current mayor, all of them being like, yeah, things are fucking terrible. We gotta start over. We need to reform City Hall. And it's like, what the fuck? You're all part of this. Every one of you is part of this. Ken Russell's up there like, yeah, this, I've been saying it forever. This city needs reform. And it's like, you were in the commission.
That motherfucker voted to fire the police chief who wrote a letter to the Department of Justice asking for a corruption investigation against DLP, Carollo, Francis, all these people. And then he like presents himself as like the anti-corruption change candidate, as if he wasn't the swing vote that decided the sale of the of the largest piece of public land for the Inter Miami Stadium, in which he, by the way, got pretty hefty campaign donations for his failed congressional run, because this guy is a fucking perennial candidate now that runs for everything. And the craziest part is so many smart people, young people in organizations in the city were again fooled by this snake oil con man. I mean, he got like, as you guys know, I texted him right when he announced his run, and I was like, you're going to lose, and you're going to lose badly, and it's going to be sad but funny. He actually like didn't lose that badly.
He didn't lose that badly. He was a third.
By 700 votes. Actually kind of impressed by how much of like a con man this guy is. He's very effective. And people buy it. It's crazy. Like, and he's probably going to run for something, and eventually he'll get elected to something, and it's going to be disappointing again. And people won't learn their lessons. People never learn their lessons in this city. That's why I don't vote anymore in most things.
To that point, like, I was going to ask you where you think his next attempted political comeback will happen.
I think 2. I think either maybe 3. He is so narcissistic and has such an inflated view of himself that he actually might run for Senate or governor again. But I think more realistically, he's going to jump in the race against Salazar. I think he might run for Congress. The other one, which I think is also more of a...
That would be his second time, by the way, trying to get the District 27
correct
nomination for the...
And it would be his second time running for U.S. Senate, by the way. For U.S. Senate.
That's right. I forgot about that. Fuck, because it was so short.
Yeah, because then he switched to Congress mid-run.
Midstream, yeah.
But he would also try to run for county mayor when Cavas termed out. I don't know. He'll run for something, I assure you. These people, not just Ken, by the way, a lot of these elected officials, they have a void in their hearts. They have a black hole in their souls.
Yeah.
That can only be massaged, that can only be filled by the perceived adulation of the electorate, of the masses. And the only thing they crave is not to enact a public program, a politic, an ideology. They crave having a name tag with a little title for elected office that they can then, wear while they go to these like gala events and ribbon cuttings, etc. But that's like, I've worked with these people, many of them, and that's really, as reductive as it sounds, that's really it for most of these people that run for office. It's quite sad.
I wanted to bring up because you were talking about like the disconnect between having like these like populist concerns being hosted at a financially hosted debate or something like that. I forget what the name of the firm was.
Yes,
this is something that's
King Griffin.
Yeah, we want to do populist cleanup hosted by Citadel. This has been part and parcel of something I've noticed since at least 2018, 2019, where a lot of these people who will call themselves reformers or popular, like the most high profile among them being like Andrew Yang and Vivek Ramaswamy, come directly from the C-suite and have to act like, I feel like they have like maybe feel a little bit silly having to present themselves as like men of the people when they've spent so much time in like among like white collar professionals. But also having to feel, I think a lot of it is just frustration that the status quo that they come from, they know isn't satisfactory to people, and they think it's a genius, three-dimensional chess move to say, I'll run against the system that I come from. I'll do like what Roosevelt did or whatever, but without the Rooseveltian program. I feel a lot of them maybe wish that the status quo was doing better so that they didn't have to go through this very silly rigmarole. And also, like in Vivek's case, the mask slips with people like this. Like to Tomas's point about Ken being a narcissist, like Vivek, running is like, I'm a MAGA cultural warrior. And as soon as he thinks he's getting into Doge, is running a scourge against, the tyranny of white sleepovers, and, all these lazy layabouts that I was just asking for votes. Now he's having to run for governor of Ohio, where he didn't think what he was going to have to do. There is a trend of like people coming from the C-suite presenting themselves as populists and having to hide their like, barely concealed condescension from the voters, that they're seeking to appeal to. This has been like a 7 or 8 year trend now. I think it's only going to get worse, especially now that, they're seeing that this type of rhetoric can win you, not just in primaries, but in the general election. I expect things to get more cynical than they already are, is what I'm saying.
I was shocked at that debate, the amount of cynicism, the amount of well, we all agree on this, right? We all agree on that. And they were like all so collegial and cordial with each other. And across the aisle, there wasn't any, it was like the things that were acceptable and that you were allowed to say was that things are not okay right now. There's some unnameable thing wrong with the city, but don't name it because that's rude. Don't call it Francis Suarez because his dad's right there, guys. Don't be mean. But it's like, and like, it was just like, I don't know, it felt so ineffectual and just literally, it was just like, to your point, Joe, it was like ego stroking stuff up there. It was just like all these guys don't have any ideas beyond Andrew Yang style fucking living wage. What was it? I don't even remember. What's the name of the policy? I don't like
UBI.
UBI, Universal
shit,
Basic Income.
the world's tiniest fucking band-aid on a gushing fucking heart wound. Like,
Yeah. We're going to give people $700 a month.
yeah.
Great.
So,
Thanks.
And then your rent goes up $700 a month.
and then your rent goes up exactly that much. Yeah. It's so like, it felt very much like that. It felt very much like unserious solutions to problems that weren't even being properly articulated. Like there were literally people talking about how, like, I didn't hear one person bring up the fact that I don't care what municipality or state is funding it, but we were doing this debate in the shadow of an enormous fucking, like, nearly $1 billion boondoggle fucking spider arch shit that is going to cost the state of Florida this ridiculous amount of money and does nothing. And we're like,
and it's also not like currently frozen.
yeah, it's frozen, and in between press releases that continually announce that it's going to be later than the completion, it's turning into the Big Dig. Except at the end of the Big Dig, you had something. You had a big greenway with tunnels underneath it and better traffic flow in Boston. All you're going to have is a fucking thing that looks like a spider at the end of this.
It doesn't even look like a spider. I like spiders. I got several tattooed on me. It doesn't look
you're
like
right. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like Thomas's tattoo at all.
It just looks like a cement arch
hunk of shit there. And there's, I guarantee, like, whatever, man, you go down the path of this shit and then you end up wasting half of your day. But like, you can go and look up the names of the firms that are the cement firms and the construction firms, and you can very easily Google where the people who own those firms, because they're all private sector, wealthy motherfuckers, where they live, and also where they lived 10 years ago. And you can pull up the pictures of their fucking homes and be like, damn, this guy went from a $1 million house to a $12 million house. How'd that happen? Huh? That's weird. Like, that's strange. I wonder how this guy became so fucking rich. And the state of Florida has just become this pass through for contractors. I've noticed this shit and in the city of Miami too. And I didn't hear one person talk about like why every single street has an enormous open, like, civil investment project. That's like, did everybody see this crash coming and everybody get their fucking, their RFPs in by the end of 2023 so that they had their shovels in the ground in 2024? Because that's sure what it feels like. Every single fucking street is closed down. And everybody is cashing in and getting their fucking their projects paid out by the state or by the county or by the city. And I didn't hear one person talk about like this, any of this shit. But I don't know. You talk to DeSantis and he says that our budget is great. So I guess we're doing fine.
I'm doing fine, baby.
Last thing I wanted to talk about.
Oh, by the way, I do have to leave in like the next 10 minutes.
Okay. Me too. Last thing I want to talk about is artificial intelligence. We had touched on it in a previous episode. I don't really remember when. It was like 3 or 4 episodes ago. But I wanted to kind of outline more of like what we know is coming down the pike, talk a little bit more about this idea that that NVIDIA and its like constellation of companies that it keeps paying out money to and then taking money back from is kind of the only thing propping up our economy right now. And also what the administration's role is in it, where in this second term, we've seen the Trump administration broadly like sidle up to, all of the AI interests, kind of side with them on a number of different issues and regulation and the, intellectual property and like IP type stuff, and just allowing these developers of these models to run roughshod all over society, really, and everything. Where I jotted all this down, Trump had rescinded Biden's AI orders from his term, and he leaned heavily into risk bias, civil rights, and workers' protections, like stripping out anything that had been built around that, basically clearing the way. We saw a lot of this kind of stuff happen years ago with Uber, right? But so like we know what preemption is like here in Florida, where it's like, oh well, sorry, stupid, you're not in charge of your city or whatever. The federal government's in charge of it, or the state is in charge of it, and that's kind of the broad strokes of what Trump is trying to do. Just make it be illegal for states to do any kind of preemption or to do any kind of active state level regulation of AI and all of the toxic shit that comes with it, whether it's the building of these data centers that have like hardly any employees, but just gobble up energy and ruin the water and fuck up the land. So into the fray comes an unlikely defender for people against AI. So I read this to you guys from Florida politics. Governor DeSantis proposes AI Bill of Rights to counter, quote, age of darkness and deceit. Expect a lot of bills to check big techs next year. This is from A.G. Gankarski, who I think we've read from before. Governor DeSantis says Florida will establish a far-reaching artificial intelligence Bill of Rights during next year's legislative session in an effort to counter what he says could be an age of darkness and deceit without action. Quote, what we're doing is things that are going to make sure that we put Floridians first, that we look out for our own people and not just have people get harmed by this rush to create data centers, a rush to try to infuse everything with AI without sufficient guardrails, DeSantis said. The tech skeptic governor blasted so-called AI exceptionalism, making the case that states like Florida should have the right to regulate the fast-growing technology, while arguing that data centers and government subsidies are non-starters. Quote, you've seen a lot of unnatural policy, DeSantis said. The governor, who has positioned himself as a skeptic against emerging technology amid its embrace on a federal level, envisions changes in Florida law to check it with a, quote, nimble approach to address its development. So, you know, this stands in contrast to a lot of what we've been hearing from people in the Trump administration who say that it's absolutely necessary for us to compete with China and compete on a global stage, that we have to like let AI firms just do whatever they want. We have to give them any information that they want. We have to let them, you know, plunder our intellectual property. If you're a writer, sorry. If you're a, you know, creator, sorry. If you're, I don't know, if you make it anything, sorry. Like that has to be gobbled up. And I wonder, there feels like there's something I'm not seeing here. Like why is DeSantis on the right side of this, on the correct side of this issue? And he's, I don't know, maybe he just happens to be right on this issue, but like, it feels like there's another shoe that hasn't dropped. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I feel like maybe it's part, I would like to see what this like regulatory framework ultimately looks like. I would venture to say that it won't end up being very robust or consequential, but I think DeSantis's insane conspiratory mind, like it hits like a sweet spot here, you know, with like the AI, the 5G, the medical tyranny, chemtrails, and this is the one thing that's actually true, right? Like tech oligarchs are destroying and replacing workers through this new technology. That being said, he could just be grifting and basically being like, if y'all don't want to get fucked over in the state of Florida, you better donate to me on my future presidential campaign.
That sounds right.
Grease me, baby. Grease me.
That's a for sale sign. It's a for sale sign. Yeah.
Don't forget, this guy took the fluoride out of the water like just a few months ago. Like there's a crowd to pander to with this type of stuff. Even if he is on this question correct to do what he's doing. I would also say, I mean, read what you were just reading from his office. That sounds actually pretty good. What I would ask is there a reason? We know what the answer is. Why doesn't that logic apply to any other major sector of our economy? Like, you're talking about how we need to put people over profits. That's very nice, Ron, but why is it just this one specific sector that gets that logic applied to it and not all the others?
More from that article.
I go
to your point.
That. Hold on. We literally had an episode covering his presidential announcement on Twitter.
On Twitter with Elon.
With Elon Musk, who's like one of the chief proponents of AI and probably has the funniest but worst AI platform. Absolutely. Like the most error-prone, least dependable grok.
The most Twitter. Twitter AI.
Yeah. You're like the... I still love Twitter, by the way. But like, you're like the like AI slayer, like, you know, but like you're constantly groveling and kissing ass to one of these like tech oligarchs. Fuck you, dude. This is a for sale sign.
Yeah, he says, we will not allow companies to sell or share personal identifying information with third parties, and we're going to mirror our data privacy protections that are in current law. But to Gerald's point, why only with AI? Like, that's kind of a fucked up thing that we already, like, I mean, the state of Florida does that. Like shares my personal identifying information with third parties. Like, everybody already fucking does that. So, and then we're going to protect consumers and individuals from having their name, image, and likeliness weaponized in a way that can do harm. They can take you now and they can put words in your mouth in ways that may be detrimental to you. So,
It's a joke. Absolute joke.
So that's it, boys.
We did it. We're back, baby.
We're back officially.
Also, leave us alone. Leave us alone, listener. Like we're doing so much. Like I frankly don't want to hear it. Like give us a break.
Working as he's podcasting.
I'm working right now while I'm podcasting. Do not tell my boss.
Do either of you? I know not you, Gerald, but do either of you have plans for Art Basel this weekend? Tomas.
If I was in the area, I would have plans.
I already went to a few things, and it all just angered me and made me upset, and I don't want to go.
That's the end of the show because it says Gerald's recording has stopped. So Gerald's recording has stopped due to an incoming call.
Depressing note.
All right. Talk to you guys later. All right.